doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on in the business world. And I was sharing that, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And again, why do we not learn this in school? Like, it was way later in my life before I started learning some of this stuff. And so what I just want to share with you today is really just 12 things, and I'm going to hopefully get through these. So I'm going to go really fast, but I call it 12 things I learned the hard way as an entrepreneur. Okay, so how many business owners or entrepreneurs do we have versus, so about half, and then the other half, I assume, work in a company world. So there's a few things that I feel like I learned along the way that the hard way. It's through the trials and errors of it that I'm going to share with you to hopefully help you guys avoid some of those things. Sound good? Okay, so the first thing that I did not know that was important to have in my business world was really to have a coach or mentors. So that was the number one thing that I learned along the way. So any business professional, especially if you talk to people who own their own business, who are very successful, every one of them have a business coach and or a mentor that they go to for business advice and how to build their business, okay? So that is really key, and a lot of people, as myself, when I first heard that, think of that as an expense, but you can't think of that as an expense. If you want to grow yourself, you have to have coaches and mentors around you in your life to grow your business and to help you guide through some of those pitfalls that you can hopefully avoid, and that's the things that they do on top of holding you accountable, all those type things. So that's number one. The other thing that I learned along the way was, how many of y'all have read Rich Dad Poor Dad or the Cash Flow Quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki? Okay, so that book was profound to me. That was many years into my career that I read that book, and it was recommended by a coach that I was working with at the time. And he taught me about the cash flow quadrant that the book talks about. You have the E, which is employee, you have the S, which is self-employed, business owner, and investor, right? So it's a quadrant. And so Robert Kiyosaki says on the left side of the quadrant, it's 95% of the people, but yet 5% of the wealth. On the right side, you've got 95% of the wealth, but only 5% of the population. So when I read that and looked at that, I would have said I was a business owner, but what he defines as a business owner is somebody who can leave their business for 6 months or more and it still run like clockwork. I wasn't in that situation. I had to be in my business to make money. I was trading time for money. And so he talks all about leveraging yourself. You got to learn how to leverage yourself. So self-employed, like me as a realtor at that time, full-time realtor, a doctor, lawyers, none of those people are really business owners like they might like to think, because they can't leave their business and still make money. And so that book, if you haven't read, is a profound book. The third thing is just to work on yourself. Again, that was something I never learned about in school anywhere. It was learning about personal development, like how to make me the best person I can be, to be able to grow and grow as a person and be just the best person, to be the best employer, all those things. So it's really personal development, and that's something that we don't hear again in our world. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about when I talk about personal development? I didn't know that for a long time. I didn't understand all the books and the resources and the audios that were out there available to help me become the best person that I could be. And I already mentioned briefly, the first thing was to not have all my eggs in one basket. Again, in the 2008, that we had all our finances tight. We were doing great, like she said, we were literally some of the top realtors here in Middle Tennessee. We were working for Keller Williams at the time, and we still do real estate. I don't do it at the level I did it before, but we were winning all the awards, at the corporate level and all of that. But we were time broke, so we worked, made a lot of money, but then we had no time at the end to enjoy it along the way. So my fifth thing is understanding how to create work-life balance. Because again, as business owners or self-employed people, it is hard to create that work-life balance. The Framingham Heart Study, they did a study about 10 years ago, and they said, I see somebody here is with the travel company, they said for women who do not take vacations on a regular basis, they have a 50% increased occurrence, not risk, occurrence of heart attacks. For women, for men, it's 32%. So guys, like seriously, it is important to get away and de-stress. I mean, you all know that the #1 cause of going to doctors is stress related. I mean, they say 80 to 85% of doctor visits are stress related. So it is important to really figure out your work-life balance, and you've got to get away and de-stress. And they said that's not going to grandma's house, that ain't going to de-stress. Like, you truly need to go get away. It's critical to your health, just like eating and exercising is. If you haven't look up, if you don't know this saying, actually I'm going to read it real quick, hopefully. Like, two things. My slogan in life has become, what good is making a living if you're not making a life, okay? But the other thing, how many of y'all have heard the master of the art of living? It's real quick, I'm going to read it. Okay, the master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does. He leaves others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, he's always doing both. Like, I have that posted. I love that. It's like, you know, I want to work in something that I'm passionate about, that I'm excited about. So when people see me, they don't know if I'm working or playing. You know, to me, I love that. So it's called the master in the art of living. The sixth thing is just to run your business like a business. This is something else I learned the hard way. I mean, that makes sense, obviously, but I didn't, again, until I got coaches in my life and people that were directing me. If you haven't read the book, The E-Myth, get that book. It will really help you define how to run your business like a business, or what's important in that. Early on, nobody, again, taught me, you know, Kathy, you need to keep up with all your receipts. You need to keep up with all your mileage, because all that's tax deductible. So you just need to understand all the things as a business owner you can deduct from your taxes, because that's the benefit of, one of the benefits of being a business owner. Whether you have a home-based business or whether you're doing it full-time, that's one of the benefits, is the tax savings. The tax codes are really written for business owners, so you can have substantial tax savings by having a business. So, and I always say to people, if you don't have an outside business, that even it's a home-based business of some sort, get one, because the tax savings. If you're working on a W-2, you need to have some kind of home-based business to be able to have some tax deductions. There's another great book out there called How to Lower Your Taxes Big Time by Sandy Botkin. He was a former IRS auditor, and he wrote that book. And so that was his background, and he really talks about, you know, how you can lower your taxes legally. Number 7 is just to create a vision board and create affirmations. You know, it's important to keep in your vision what it is you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do, because you're going to get somewhere in 5 years. But if you do not have a plan for where you're going, you're just going to end up somewhere, and you're going to look back and you're going to be like, what happened to the last 5 years? I'm no farther along than where I wanted to be. I haven't create a plan of a path to get where I want to be. And, you know, affirmations are so important, because all of us have negative self-talk. Again, when no one tells us how to, you know, I don't know how we developed that, but we developed that from a young age. And so one of the books that helped me in that is a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. That's just an excellent book, and it really gives you practical ideas about, you know, how the things that you say to yourself turn into feelings, that turn into beliefs, that ultimately become your actions, you know. And so if you're telling yourself a lot of negative things, and many times it's subconscious, you don't even realize you're doing it until you become conscious enough to start training yourself in that. Number 8 is to have, if you're a business owner and you are looking to create, you know, more customers, you've got to have a customer database. So again, I didn't have that from the beginning. Even in real estate, they didn't say, Kathy, you ought to keep up with all your customers so you can stay in touch with them, because those are going to be the people that will refer to you over time. But if you don't stay in touch with them, they're not going to refer to you, right? So Lori and she's going to be able to tell you about a great contact management system that their product has. But if you have business and you're relying on referrals, you need a contact management system. But beyond that, you need a way that you're going to stay in touch and follow up with those people. And really what Lori does is great with that. Number 9 is just to create a great elevator speech. So when somebody says, what do? Don't say, I'm a realtor, I'm an insurance guy, I'm this or that, because Everyone says that. So you've got to define a line or two. Why are you different than anybody else? So you've got to be able to come, like one of my friends, he's an insurance broker. People say, you know, in the elevator or what have you, what do you do? When he goes, I'm actually the second most important person in your life. Of course, that draws their attention, and they're like, they don't even know the person. They're like, what do you mean by that? He said, when you have a wreck or you have a fire or you have an emergency at your house, he said, you're going to call your family first, and I'm the second call, your insurance guy. So when you need insurance, you remember me. So like he's got their attention right off the bat, rather than just saying, I'm an insurance broker. And so that's what I mean by developing elevator speech. Why are you different than somebody else? But it's got to be short, less than 30 seconds, okay? Number 10 is just having a why. It can't just be about the money. If you're always chasing the money, you're going to get the money and there's going to be no fulfillment. You know, it's like you've got to have a why. It's got to be more driving you than just going after the money. If you haven't read, or y'all know what TED Talk is? So there's a guy, Simon Sinek, who wrote a book called Start With Why, and he did a TED Talk on that. It's about 5 or 8 minutes. That's a great video to watch on that. Number 11 is understanding what you do daily compounds. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, nobody was beating on my door to make me get up and go to work every day, right? When I jumped into real estate, or I started my travel business about 7.5 years ago that we run still, and no one's like, Kathy, you got to get up and come to work. I wasn't gonna get fired if that didn't happen. But then, so one day would go by, I wouldn't do anything. 2 days would go by, you know. And so what I had to learn the hard way was, what I'm doing every day is going to compound into my business later. And so you really have to discipline yourself to set yourself on some type of schedule, because no one else is going to. If you are a self-employed person, no one else is going to. So you've got to get a schedule of discipline in place to help yourself move along. And then the 12th thing, I made this mistake more than once, was really to hire to your needs, not your likes. So don't hire your best friend to come work with you when you need help. Don't hire your brother or your sister just because they need work. You've got to understand the personality profiles that are out there. There are different personality styles. We all have different personality styles. If you haven't taken a personality profile test for yourself, you need to take a personality profile test. It's probably the easiest one out there is the DISC, D-I-S-C, and there's 4 different personality styles. There's a lot of books that are broken down out there with that too, but different personalities are just naturally gifted in different arenas. So somebody who's just really a happy-go-lucky, friendly person, everybody loves them, most of the time are not your detailed people. You know, they're just not who they are. And so when you need a detailed person, just because your friends you love and they are that happy fun, everybody's going to love you, you're so good, but you really need an administrative assistant that's going to do all your paperwork, that's not the right person for the hire usually. So again, understanding the profile test so that you can hire. Many corporations out there now, they don't bring anybody in until they've taken a personality test, because they want to make sure their natural gifts are in alignment with the job that they're trying to fill. So it's the same thing with us. So don't hire somebody just off somebody you like. It's very important to hire somebody that really has the skills. You know, not that they say they can do Microsoft Excel, you know, they can do Excel and PowerPoint. You really need to test them on their profile, okay? So that's the 12 things, quick things. I hope I got that in 10 minutes.